things that has come up that really drives how people look at this is who actually owns the seat. So I Googled the crud out of this, and I ended up talking to Robert Murphy for quite a while yesterday about who owns the seat and some of this thank you for closed business stuff. But it can be the company, the person in the company, it can be a combination of the two, or whoever's name is on the check. It ultimately comes out to whoever's name is on the check. That's who owns the seat. So, if you wrote the check for your seat, you change companies, change jobs, you can change seats. You can stay in this chapter without having to write another check, go through the whole process again. If you leave your company and the company writes that check, the company can send somebody else in and go through the interview process without having to write another check. So whoever writes that check owns that seat for a year. All right, so that brings us into what should we report? So as I was thinking about this, we kind of realized I was getting into the minutia of all these details of why should we report this, what should we report. But it really comes down to the intent, and we need to look at what is the intent of it, and that's kind of where my conversation with Robert went to, is the intent of our reporting is to capture the revenue earned by the member companies. And the member companies is the important thing here, and is to capture the revenue earned by the member companies. And the second thing is the thank you for closed business tracks the money flowing into the member companies, not the money flowing out of it. So we're going to look at these two in a little greater detail, and you'll see on a sheet that I pass out that we're looking at the revenue earned by the companies, not the individuals in the room, and the money flowing into our chapter. So what should we report? The total amount earned for the member companies, not the individuals representing the companies, and the money flowing in, even from past B&I members. So that's the total of what we should report. Pretty easy, but then we get into some of the details, and also money flowing to cross-chapter referrals. We'll talk some about that. But what not to report, money flowing out to past B&I members. So Victoria, I still do business with her. I can report the money coming in as B&I, but if I do business, if I go to see hers, I'm not going to report anything. Transactions to visitors who do not join. So Wendy joined, we've done a transaction, she can now issue a referral, and I can issue a thank you for closed business to her. If she had not joined, I would have issued a visitor one time, and that's it. So let's take a look at these handouts. I've got some handouts here. And on here, I pretty much, everybody's name is on here. So take one and pass it around. And I want you to take a couple of minutes, and on the first page, find your name. And the majority of us fit into that very top category. But coming down to enter the total amount paid to your company for the transaction, regardless of the source of income. So real estate, sometimes it comes from the buyer, sometimes it comes from the seller. If somebody in this room brought you that transaction, enter the entire amount, regardless of who it comes from. And do not subtract any cost of goods, your cost of doing business, your travel, none of that. If the client writes you a check that includes your cost of goods, include that in there. So Brad, if your client buys a light fixture and you install it, don't include the light fixture. If you buy the light fixture and sell it to them at the exact same price you bought it for, include the cost of that light fixture in there. Does that make sense? Okay, so has everybody found your name, and read what it says underneath there? And then let's have kind of a Q&A session on that for a few minutes.
So for instance, I'm looking at my name and I see that I report full annual premium.
Yes.
And I do that every year.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's fantastic.
Yep. Now you have the option to report it either once a year or 12 times a year.
I'm going to give you the whole year up front.
The whole year up front. That's what B&I recommends, is the whole year up front, simply because it's easier to report. So, anybody else? I know there's questions.
For me, and like if somebody says, I want you to list our house. If I find the buyer, then I would report closed sale.
there's a few of you guys in here, like Chad, you've got a lot of stuff in there. I tried to give some examples. If you've got questions later, you can give me a call. Deb, I don't know what all fees go to Kansas Secured Title. I tried to list a bunch, but
I like the bill charge.
yeah, all of that. Pull that in, because that's revenue earned by your company. And Casey, you're kind of in that same boat too. There's a lot of things in there, different charges that are going to go to your company. I don't know what all they are, so we can talk about this later if you want to. And this comes from the handout that B&I sent, and a lot of discussions with Robert Murphy to clarify some stuff and kind of see where we are. So, what other questions do you have?
So for my business, I have a recurring charge
Yes.
for, let's say I'm cleaning Gary's office or.
My windows.
Every window. When I take that amount times 12, I'm gonna keep you guys as a customer all year long.
Yes.
Instead of trying to do 12 separate, trying to remember 12 separate invoices.
Yes. You can do it either way. But once a year makes your life easy.
Barn door.
I know, Mark, you're kind of in a different situation because you've got an upfront cost, but then you've got those recurring costs. So make sure you get that upfront cost, and for the recurring, you can either enter a monthly or do it once annually. Anything else? Okay, turn this over to the backside now. So, former members, if you're doing business with a former member, when you click on the thank you for closed business, there's a B&I on the drop-down menu. Select that and enter the amount that came into your business. And that's gonna capture revenue that's brought into our chapter. Now, if we've got cross-chapter referrals from another person coming to you, you go in and enter the amount for the individual who gave you that referral. That gives them credit for sending that referral. And then also enter the same amount as B&I for our chapter. And that gives our chapter credit for incoming money. So if it's a referral coming to you from across chapter, you're gonna enter it twice. Does that make sense? You're gonna enter it once for the person who gave it to you, and then you're gonna enter it a second time as B&I. So our chapter gets credit, and we know that there's money coming into our chapter.
Wouldn't that be going out, because if the referral's coming into us from cross chapter, wouldn't they enter it?
No, that's the next one. When you give a referral to someone else.
So if one's coming in, say Kevin, and the reason I use Kevin
Yeah.
quite a bit, Kevin puts it online for me when it's coming in. So now do I go back in and put it in on B&I?
So
Is that what happens?
when Kevin gives you a referral,
Uh-huh.
so yes, Kevin says, Brad, I need electrical work done. You go do the electrical work, you send him a bill for $500. You're gonna send Kevin a thank you for closed business for $500, so he gets credit. And then you're also gonna go to B&I under our chapter and give a thank you for closed business to B&I, so our chapter gets credit to see that there's money coming into our chapter.
Okay.
So it's gonna be entered twice.
Okay.
Do you want us to go back, if there are people we do business with that are no longer being, and add it? Yes.
That's
We
catch
wouldn't want
mine.
to. Barry says no, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
If you want me to pull it up for you, I'm happy to.
I would.
Walk you right through that.
Yeah, I mean, I would personally say, let's not get confused with what's in the past, because we've all done business with people in the past. We're never gonna remember it all, but let's take that from this point going forward, and remember that as we're doing this going forward. Now, I did talk to, in my conversation with Robert Murphy, the #1 chapter in Kansas is in Wichita. You know how much they do? Anybody want to?
Several
Yes.
million.
8.6 million.
I knew it was something.
So, I was like, how do they do 8.6 million? And he said it's largely because they have a lot of former members that they're still doing business with. So they're capturing revenue from the 35 people in their room, plus the 50 people, 100 people who used to be in that chapter. And they've been in existence for over 10 years, so if there's a 10% attrition rate, they're losing 5 members a year, roughly. So you've got 50 members that they're still doing business with. easily. So we need to keep track of that and keep up with those older members. So then the last one on here is cross-chapter referrals from you to another person. So Debbie calls Kevin Sperling and says, Kevin, I need you to do some HVAC work. So when that happens, Kevin will issue a thank you to close business to Debbie for $500, and she's done. Kevin should also issue the thank you for closed business to B&I for his chapter, so his chapter gets the credit for it.
That's a very tough one, and Debbie and I will tell you, on cross chapters, very hard, because another particular chapter, they don't push that so much, and I've had a real tough time, because I have to call them and tell them, hey, you gotta put that in there.
Yeah, those cross-chapter referrals, you're gonna have a harder time doing it. Keith, as our vice president, should be able to enter a thank you for closed business from other people.
I can enter from B&I.
From B&I, yeah.
Yeah, I can't go in and like enter something from Kevin to Debbie, but I can enter from B&I to Debbie. Yeah, I can do that.
So if you don't see it show up, if you're questioning it, just call Keith a couple weeks later and say, hey, has this gone in?
Yeah, so I would say just, when you invoice them, just copy that invoice or whatever, so that you can.
Put that in there, shoot them a text, say, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. All right. Questions? Concerns? So my last statement, or my last comments on this is what B&I recommends. This is how B&I wants us to track our thank you for closed business. I know it hasn't always been done this way in the past, but this is what B&I wants us to do. So if we are going to compare ourselves to other B&I chapters, this is how we need to do it, so we can compare apples to apples and know what our numbers are in comparison to the other chapters. So if you don't agree with this, too bad. This is what they want.
Call Robert.
I don't like paying taxes, but it's the game I chose to play, living here and being a business owner, so I pay sales tax even though I don't like it. So, play by the rules of the game you're playing. And with that, let's all get our thank you for closed business in and have some great numbers this year.